Today on Mysterious Morsels, we're talking about zombies. Oh, how I love zombies. Zombies are just one of those genres that people love and want to talk about all the time, myself included. I don't think you can get a better picture of fear that can also mimic so many modern day tropes. I mean, you could think about it for consumerism, you could think about it for being a mindless automaton, you could think about it for acting like a sheep and following through mindlessly with people and agreeing with them blindly. You could think about it from actual decay and falling apart. You could think about it from the idea of, just pure what it is, fiction. There's so many cool things that go along with the zombie trope. And I certainly want to give credit to where credit is due. So it's an interesting story. I think that everybody knows George Romero was the first, zombie, I'll say, archetype that went out there. And obviously there were different things before that where you might have an undead or something like that, but it was more on the mummy side of things. That's a whole different story, and we'll talk about them later in the month. But mummies aren't zombies, very different things. And with the zombies, you have to figure that certain things keep coming up, just like any other, I'll say, spooky thing or mysterious thing in our case. And the really cool part is that most of it follows a pattern. You have typically a flesh decaying, rotting person. So the fact that this was a normal person that is now no more, has lost their ID, they've lost their their IQ, they've lost their whole purpose and basic motor skills. So everything about this person is stripped away. Identity is gone. So that's the first thing you kind of have to get over. Then you're infectious. Now, you could be infectious for so many different reasons, but you're infectious. So however you got whatever it is that made you get sick or turn into this way, now you're also spreading the disease. And it's not just by catching it however you caught it, but you can also bite, scratch, eat whomever else and turn that other normal person into a stripped away person, or entity, I should say. So that can be a thing in itself, because there's a little bit of lore, in terms of zombies eating brains. I've seen a lot with that. They go after the brains, whether it's funny or whether it's kind of the point of it. But you never know. They might eat a brain, they might not eat a brain, but they definitely certainly want to eat people and scratch them, and they bite at them, and they don't know any better other than it's allegedly a person who died that reanimated, and now their basic motor skill is to just wander around kind of drunk looking and eat and chomp and scratch and bite. They don't really talk. They don't really have any kind of basic motor skill other than stumbling around, and that's what separates the whole basic part of the brain, and that's it. Everybody else is running from them. The other thing you see a lot is that they don't generally do much besides walk or stumble. You're not really going to see them run. You're not really going to see them go after other things that aren't moving. At least sound can attract them, or light, or noise, but that's you're just kind of going after whatever it is that's moving. Now, here's where everything gets blown apart. It really comes down to, for me, the why. I want to know why and how these people got infected. What was it? Was it a nuclear reaction situation? Was there some crazy animal that had a pathogen, antigen, contagion thing that they ate and it shouldn't have been? Was it food that went bad? Did E. coli go too far? Who knows? But whatever the reason was, what was it that got that person sick? It got that person to be messed up and got that individual to cross over. And why is it that there's never any cure? Is it because you've gone too far? Now, obviously, if you're half a bag of bones and totally decayed, you're probably not coming back. But if it's something where you can potentially save that individual or get them out of that horrible state, what is the turnaround time? Because, again, there's sort of a trope that you got about a half hour or an hour until it spreads through your bloodstream, but who knows? We don't really have definitive numbers for obvious reasons. But that's definitely something that bothers me. I want to know why you get sick, how you get sick, and can you prevent it? How do you prevent it? How did you not know this was happening? That makes me crazy. So when George Romero started doing all this back in the day, it is amazing that not only did he have the thought behind it and create Night of the Living Dead and all that, beginning from everything, which of course there are many a sequel and many a ripoff and many a relaunch, but I interestingly learned not that long ago, it's amazing the wonders of the internet, that George Romero worked on Mr. Rogers set years ago. Fred Rogers, gotta love him, love the trolley, and he actually got his start there. So he was making little models and things, and it was like one of his first jobs. And he actually got a nod from Fred that he was so good that he went on and got many an accolade to be able to go forward and do more of what he was, I guess, aspiring to or thinking about the whole time. Seriously doubt that Purple Panda and the Kingdom led to actual zombies, but it was definitely a children's thing, and then he was able to get a leg up and go on. So it's pretty cool that they were connected. I would have never put those two in the same genre. And then of course, now when you think of George Romero, you can't help but think of Greg Nicotero and The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, 13 or 14 years straight through. On AMC, and of course you've got all these spin-offs and different little shows that popped up, or even little sequences that he would do. So I think not only is the graphic work of it very cool, but there's a lot of challenges to zombies, because those guys really went completely all out to find. Okay, you're not just turning into a corpse and you're starting to show bones and things are gross. You are now coming up with, they had the Wellwooder zombie, and they had the moss zombies, and the zombies that were in the marina too long, and the zombies that were radioactive, and the zombies in a storm, and the zombies that were infected by other things that they got, like a flu and stuff like that. So it's very unique to me, and says a lot to their creativity to not only dream up the other strains of these zombies, but also to make them look the part. And they are so great at practical effects and everything. So nod to them. But I mean, to kind of go, you could see Greg Nicotero absorbing a lot of George Romero's work. And of course, they've done Hollywood Horror Nights and things at Universal Studios out west, and I'm on the East Coast, so unfortunately we don't have the Walking Dead experience in Orlando. But hopefully, someday, if you're listening, corporate people, while you're building Epic Universe finishing touches, go build the Walking Dead experience in Orlando as well. But I hear it's very cool out there, and certainly they have Horror Nights, and there's all sorts of things that are incorporated that Greg Nicotero's had his hand in as well. And as much as Walking Dead's a huge landscape for zombies, the one thing that always bothered me about it, as much as I love the show and followed it completely and still do, still watching Daryl Dixon, there's just no reason. They never really give you a reason. I mean, spoiler alert, at this point, I think we've all figured out that, by the way, we all just have it. Back in like season 2 or 3, the doctor from the CDC whispers into Rick's ear, "Oh yeah, you just have it. Everybody's got it. Everybody's carrying it." So just by dying, you would automatically reanimate unless you were, shot in the head. Okay, that's convenient, but they never say why. And as much as the show has always talked about fighting them and combating them and how to manipulate them, they never said why. And that's the one thing that's always bothered me about it, because pretty much every other one you've ever seen, there's some pathogen or something happens, or there's an accident in a lab. And this is going back to like, movies like Warning Sign, to obviously Night of the Living Dead, to the joke on South Park about the embalmers were accidentally using Worcestershire sauce as an embalming agent and turned them into zombies. Hilarious episode, early South Park. That was very funny. And of course, that's more on a joke side. Where they have Shaun of the Dead, where it's a complete joke, the entire thing, mimicking zombie movies, also very funny and worth the watch. Or you have Dawn of the Dead, where they're kind of trapped in the mall. Like that's a very typical one. But they don't really, there's always like some pathogen or something happened, or it just in Walking Dead it just like appeared. Like all of a sudden, we're eating people. There was no rhyme or reason to how it sort of triggered. It just said that everybody got it, and that was that. And it was sort of like one day it just appeared. So that's the only loophole that I'm not a big fan of. I will say that the being shot in the head thing seems to be the only way to deanimate, unalive them, if you will, because you gotta, I guess, kill what little brain matter is left to stop the motor function. Of course, if you cut limbs off or whatever, it's still going to continue to crawl and try and eat, but less of a danger. So always keep your pickaxes ready. So that's pretty much been a consistent thing. But as much as we've had, okay, they try and bite. They don't really, do anything but trying to eat, and there's no reason for their existence other than they're trying basic motor skills, and they're looking for sound and lights and whatnot. Here comes World War Z, and of all things, it kind of blew the whole idea out of the water. It was the first time, at least that I saw, and I'm pretty avid horror movie watcher and follower, first time that I saw running zombies. And that was crazy. It made it 3 times as terrifying because it was almost the Michael Myers, Jason kind of vibe that no matter how calmly all these people would chase you, they were still walking and you were still running. Now what would happen? Somebody would trip. There's some stupid reason why they would catch up to them, but nobody was ever in a rush. It was sort of like, I'm going to get you and you know it, and that was half of the psychological battle. But with a zombie, you stood a chance because, especially if it was one-on-one, you could probably get away. If you had hordes and hordes of them, okay, now you have a problem, but you could potentially hide and be quiet. They're not really going to go opening doors and look for you. It's not like a serial killer, and it's certainly not, even if it was in packs, they're not that smart. So if they can't even open the doorknob, you're pretty safe, like under a bed, hiding somewhere until they go away. This was different. This was them, in packs, kind of having a little bit more of higher function, stacking up against the wall when they have the Middle Eastern scene and all the zombies start piling on to be able to cross over the wall. The other thing they did that was really cool was they didn't bother sick people. It was like they weren't worth eating because they were already infected with something else. And that's, again, spoiler alert, how Brad Pitt gets out of the situation. He injects himself with like a flu or something, and therefore, oh, ew, we don't want you. So they skip him, and they don't even bother. That was the first time I'd seen that, because that would almost suggest a higher level brain function that you would have to know and sort out. Now, maybe it was on a base level, no different than, a dog can sense a hurricane or, kind of sniff you and know when a person's not quite right. But it was definitely the first time you've seen that with zombies. On a Warm Bodies, hilarious, cute, and you fall in love with the zombie. First time I've seen that either, and it worked. Now, I am an author of a couple books, and I have definitely done my share of reading and watching horror and all different genres. But as far as funny and dark go together, I have not read the book Warm Bodies, but I in my author searches and things found out that it was in fact a book first and got made into a movie in sort of a whirlwind situation. I love it. I watch it whenever it's on cable, and it is a departure from it because it's kind of a warm story. And John Malkovich, of course, is hilarious because he just wants to blow everybody up. But it is the first time that you see the potentiality of getting to the heart, literally, of the situation and reanimating the people, assuming they're not too far gone. In that story, they have the bonies, which are just as it sounds, so they've all pretty much become skeletons, and eventually they just die if they don't eat. And they're probably the most ferocious, but they're also the I'll say least. They're probably the most lethal, but they're the least threatening when it comes to being able to defeat them, only because they have not much other than skeleton left. They can't really pack up and get people together. So it was interesting that once they started to see positive human behavior, then the heart started to beat again, and then all normal animations came back, and they started to be able to get their eye color back, get their skin color back, not have a taste for flesh, and want to be able to try and talk and even have conversations among themselves. So that was really a warm-hearted story, and that was neat because it spoke to the nature of humans. It's like people got so bad that you decayed and you rotted, and civilization sort of decayed and rotted. So if you were able to kind of turn it around and be better, then all of a sudden everybody was better. And it was like, oh, very cool. Everybody could live zombie hand in hand with normal human. And then they joined forces to get rid of the bonies and the real bad ones that were towards the end of their last leg. So that was a unique departure from standard zombie situations. It's just, it's a really cool genre that I just think it's like the great white shark. It's just something that people don't ignore. Even if you're not really that into it, you're going to give a listen or give a nod or maybe take an extra second to pay attention to the movie trailer or whatever was coming out about it, because it's just something unique. It's something different, and it could happen. It could happen. I always joke that, now we're talking about all this AI stuff and people aren't thinking for themselves, which is becoming exceedingly obvious around Earth. If you just open your eyes, you'll see people like totally clueless and not able to do basic functions like tie their shoes and tell time on an analog clock, which gets me nervous. And as that starts to get worse and worse, I always joke, but I'm serious. A little bit of truth in every joke. Hey, anybody else worried that like Skynet's going to take over the world and all of a sudden we're going to have Terminators and the Terminators are going to turn into, mutilating people so badly that they become zombies, or we end up in the Matrix and we're the batteries? Like, anybody else worried about this? Anybody else worried about the machines taking over? Anybody else? So I joke about it, but it's definitely something that with pharmaceuticals such as they are, with technology such as it is, and with the precursors that we've had, even though it's fiction, there might be a little trifecta happening there. So we're definitely set up for the dystopian universe that we always write about. Hope it doesn't happen. Really don't want it to. But, a close reality. And obviously drugs are bad and I don't condone them in any way, shape, or form, but a close reality that we almost started to see zombie-like behavior was a few years ago when people were indulging in these bath salt pharmaceuticals, for lack of better wording. I don't know what the drug was or what the combination of drugs were, but as people took them, smelled them, snorted them, ate them, did whatever they did with them, ingested them somehow, they were actually so out of mind that they were unable to reconcile normal behavior, and they were eating people. I mean, they were actually biting and eating people, and in many cases killed people, children, and didn't even know it. A couple that I heard about that got so into it actually killed each other, and then there were some people that they went through, and I believe they, when they came to in the situation, one person had like hurt their own child or murdered their own child, and they left a note saying, "This is what I took. Here's the guy I bought it from. I can't live with myself." And then they unalived themselves and left like a note to tell the police, like, "Here's where I got this. I did this. I can't believe it." And it was like days later, out of some crazed like fever stupor. Now I haven't heard much about it since, but that had happened pretty rampantly for a few months, several years ago is when I first heard about it. And I'm sure they're still out there, but whatever it was, the closest facsimile I heard was like the same effects of, like, say, PCP, where you could, punch your hand through a glass plate and you wouldn't feel it until days later, but you broke every bone in your hand. So same kind of a situation from what I'm told. Certainly I have not indulged, nor do I plan to, but that was the closest thing that got me scared as far as a physical pharmaceutical that you could consume that would make you behave like that. Now, presumably, the drug either killed you or you were able to get back to normal later, whenever later was, but still scary, and closest facsimile that I've seen. As far as it goes with all the tech and stuff like that, well, it just depends. I think it all comes down to what perfect storm awaits, and hopefully none, and everything goes in the other direction. But I guess the cool part, or the piece that's interesting, is you're going back to normal Joe Schmo, you kind of life, and then all of a sudden it's degraded and all of that normal is stripped away. And like I said, you could take that on a a physical level that they've become a flesh-eating zombie, or you could take that on a very emotional level or practical level, or you could look at it as theoretical. But either way, it's something got taken away. You've been reduced to less than. This is how bad things are. This is now what you're doing, and this is all you can do until you just get eliminated, or you keep wandering around aimlessly. So it's almost like this fear of like soullessness, which is why a lot of times on The Walking Dead they would make sure that they would get the headshot, if you will, and bury that person if it was someone they cared about, because they're just going to keep going on and eating and making it all worse like a virus. So I think that's what makes it intriguing and yet terrifying at the same time, is that it could happen to anybody. It could be you. It could be any normal person or situation that suddenly doesn't matter. You could have been the genius of most genius, and now you're nothing. You're just a flesh-eating zombie. So it's neat to see the evolution of it throughout years and years. But I'm definitely partial to a lot of. There's certainly many movies and things in this time of year you definitely want to look up. But it's a cool genre. And hey, tell me in the comments. I would love to know what's your favorite. Did I miss one? I'm sure I missed several. Or is there any specific one that you like, or movie or book or something that was out there that I would like to catch up on myself? I will tell you this. There was a book that was a survival guide, and I'm in Pennsylvania, and it was supposed to be like East Stroudsburg, PA, which is known for like trains and near the Lancaster Amish area. So of all places to say that the zombie apocalypse started, there was an actual book written a few years ago that my sister got me as a joke that I read, and it's pretty funny, and it's an actual survival guide. You could certainly argue the survival piece is no different than regular survivors or military survival tactics, but it was as if there was this outbreak in East Stroudsburg, PA, and that it was coming our way, and you got to prepare for it. So I found that pretty funny, and it's worth the read. I'm sure there's a million other things out there like that, but it was definitely fictional, but it was presented as if it was a manual for the real deal. Of course I read it. Of course I did. Anyhow, so let me know in the comments what your favorite one is. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Scare that like button into flesh-eating zombiness, and follow my content if you got a kick out of any of this. And we'll leave some links below so you can check out some other videos if you like. And there's also going to be a link to my book, Seven Dreams, and Ominous Tales if you're interested. They're both hanging out on Amazon. And we will catch you with the next installment coming up very soon in this spooky month of October.